Okay, today is the 30th of July, and we are on the Kassapa Samyutta. We come to Sutta 16.4 at Savatthi. Buddha said, monks, what do you think? What kind of monk is worthy to be a visitor of families? And what kind of monk is not worthy to be a visitor of families? Noble Sir, our teachings are rooted in the Blessed One. And the Blessed One said, monks, a monk might approach families with the thought, may they give to me, not hold back. May they give me much, not a little. May they give me fine things, not shabby things. May they give me promptly, not slowly. May they give me considerately, not casually. When a monk approaches families with such a thought, if they do not give, he thereby becomes hurt. On that account, he experiences pain and displeasure. If they give little rather than much, or if they give shabby things rather than fine things, or if they give slowly rather than promptly, or if they give casually rather than considerately, he thereby becomes hurt. On that account, he experiences pain and displeasure. Such a monk is not worthy to be a visitor of families. Monks, a monk may approach families with the thought, when among others' families, how could I possibly think, may they give to me, not hold back. May they give me respectfully, not casually, etc. When a monk approaches families with such a thought, if they do not give, or if they give casually, etc., he does not thereby become hurt. He does not on that account experience pain and displeasure. Such a monk is worthy to be a visitor of families. Monks, Kassapa approaches families with such a thought. When among others' families, how could I possibly think, may they give to me, not hold back, may they give respectfully, etc. If they do not give, or if they give casually, etc., he does not thereby become hurt. He does not on that account experience pain and displeasure. Monks, I will exhort you by the example of Kassapa, or one who is similar to Kassapa. Being exhorted, you should practice accordingly. It's the end of the sutta. You see here, the Buddha is quite detailed in his teaching. He things like this, most people would not think about it. But the Buddha is very particular that the Sangha has a good reputation. So even small details like this, he teaches the monks that when they go and beg for their food also, what they think is important. If they have a greedy thought, if they have an arrogant thought, then they may become hurt when they should not. So Buddha is teaching them to practice to the finest details. The next sutta, 16.5. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel sanctuary. Then the venerable Kassapa approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him and sat down to one side. The Blessed One then said to him, you are old now, Kassapa, and those worn-out hempen rag robes must be burdensome for you. Therefore, you should wear robes offered by householders, Kassapa, accept meals on invitation, and dwell close to me. Let's stop here for a moment. This Venerable Kassapa, when the Buddha, I think, was about 80 years old, I think Venerable Kassapa, according to some books, was about 120 years old or something like that. He was much older than the Buddha. And he was very ascetic, even up to the very end, which is quite rare. Normally monks are ascetic in their younger days, then as they grow older, they tak boleh tahan because the ascetic ways are a bit taxing. When your body is old, you find it very difficult to practice some of the ascetic practices, like sleeping in the forest. In my younger days, I also slept in the forest. We just put a plastic sheet, put your umbrella. You look for 2 branches to hang your rope, and after that you put your umbrella. And then your umbrella, the height should be such that the top of the umbrella is just your eye level. For me, about 5 feet. So that when you sit under the umbrella, you just don't knock the top of your head, so you can sit in meditation. And then you want it to be low, so that when you lie down to sleep at night, your mosquito net can stretch far. If you put it too high, when you sleep at night, your mosquito net cannot open out. So not only that, your mosquito net, you have to be careful to put it under something under the plastic sheet or under some material, otherwise the snake will crawl inside. So when you are young, you can sleep on the bare floor like this. But after about 45 years old, you will find a bit difficult, because after 45 years old, my experience was the body heat with lesson becomes much less. So when the wind blows, it goes into your bones. But Kassapa, so old, you are still staying in the forest and wearing rag robes, refused to accept offerings of new robes by lay people, and also he only ate his meal from arms round. He refused to go to a house invitation or to a monastery to eat, I think. And then he said, "For a long time, Venerable Sir, I have been a forest dweller and have spoken in praise of forest dwelling. I have been an alms food eater and have spoken in praise of eating alms food. I have been a rag robe wearer and have spoken in praise of wearing rag robes. I have been a triple robe user, that means one set only, and have spoken in praise of using the triple robe. I have been of few wishes and have spoken in praise of fewness of wishes. I have been content and have spoken in praise of contentment. I have been secluded and have spoken in praise of solitude. I have been aloof from society and have spoken in praise of aloofness from society. I have been energetic and have spoken in praise of arousing energy." Stop here for a moment. So you see, all these very good practices which not many monks have the willpower to practice. Then the Buddha asked, "Considering what benefit, Kassapa, have you long been a forest dweller? Have you long been an alms food eater? Have you long been a rag robe wearer, etc., and spoken in praise of them?" And then he said, "Considering 2 benefits, Venerable Sir, for myself I see a pleasant dwelling in this very life, and I have compassion for later generations, thinking, may those later generations follow my example. For when they hear, the enlightened disciples of the Buddha were for a long time forest dwellers and spoke in praise of forest dwelling. For a long time they have been alms food eaters and spoken in praise of eating alms food. For a long time they have been rag robe wearers, etc., and spoken in praise of these practices. And then they will practice accordingly, and that will lead to their welfare and happiness for a long time. Considering these 2 benefits, Venerable Sir, I have long been a forest dweller, etc., and hence have spoken in praise of these ascetic practices." And the Buddha said, "Good, good, Kassapa. You are practicing for the welfare and happiness of the multitude, out of compassion for the world, for the good welfare and happiness of devas and humans. Therefore, Kassapa, wear worn-out hempen rag robes, walk for alms, and dwell in the forest." That's the end of the sutta. You see here, the Venerable Kassapa says he sees 2 benefits of dwelling in the forest and practicing all these ascetic practices. He says, one, he has a pleasant dwelling in this very life. He feels comfortable. This staying in the forest, if you are not used to it, it takes a lot of effort to get used to it, because initially, if a monk stays alone, his mind may be distracted, disturbed by a lot of things. so he may not be used to having nobody to speak to and all that. So it takes some time to get used to it. But once a monk gets used to it, then he likes that type of life. And the second reason, he has compassion for later generations. He's showing this good example so that later generations, when they hear that the enlightened disciples of the Buddha were ascetic practices, were monks who practice ascetic practices, then they will follow this example. In fact, there is another sutta, I've forgotten exactly where the Buddha says the same thing. The Buddha says even after he has become enlightened, he still spends his time in secluded dwellings away from people, either in the forest or in a cave, etc. Just like our great Ajahn Mun. So he says, just because I constantly dwell in the forest, I don't think that I have not become enlightened. He says even after enlightenment also, he prefers to stay in the forest for two reasons. One is this one, the same reason. The first one, he has a very pleasant dwelling in this very life. And then he gives an amusing example. He says, if he's alone in the forest and he's got to answer call of nature, it's very easy. Anytime he can answer the call of nature, nobody to to embarrass him. And then also he has compassion for later generations, because he wants to set this example for people to see that if you want to become enlightened, you want to walk this path out of samsara, you have to go into seclusion. As the Indian saying goes, the holy path is the path of the alone, to the alone, by the alone. So here I want to quote to you the Mahayana Bodhisattva precepts. I'm familiar with them because I also took the Mahayana Bodhisattva precepts before. So there are these major precepts and the minor precepts. And in the minor precepts, there's one, number 37. This is the Mahayana Vinaya book by the monk Yen Kiet from Bangkok. So the translation is this. It says, a monk who performs a Dhutanga practice, living in the forest for religious contemplation, or living or practicing aranyaka, that means seclusion, and stays in a place full of wild animals or in a dangerous locality, commits lahu kapati sin, that means a light offense. So it is in the Mahayana precepts is contradictory to the Buddha's practice. The Buddha says that he himself likes to stay in secluded places and encourages his monks to stay in secluded places, whereas this Bodhisattva precept says the opposite, not allowed to practice ascetic practices, not allowed to stay in the forest. So it is for these type of reasons that the Buddha always praised Kassapa, because basically the Buddha is also of the same nature. But the Buddha practiced all the ascetic practices until there were practically no more ascetic practice for him to practice. It's only later when he realized that many of them are unbeneficial that he gave them up. But still, in spite of so many ascetic practices, there are some that the Buddha encouraged. Actually, to many people, they seem ascetic practices, but to the Buddha, it is just the middle path. Eating one meal a day, to the Buddha, is a middle path, because he has practiced not eating anything at all, or eating one grain of rice a day. So to him, it's a middle path, or like using one set of ropes only. Triple ropes means one set of three ropes, the upper rope, the lower rope, and the double layer rope, which we use as a blanket. So that one set is